of St. Thomas of Becket, St. Thomas of Canterbury, and the Gospel taken from St. John chapter 10. At that time, Jesus said to the Pharisees, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. But the hireling who is not a shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches and scatters the sheep. But the hireling flees because he is a hireling and has no concern for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for my sheep. And other sheep I have that are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd." That's for the words of today's Holy Gospel. The day of the feast of St. Thomas of Canterbury, St. Thomas of Becket, who was the Chancellor of King Henry II in England, and then as an older man, 45 or about 50 years old, he was chosen to be a bishop, and then he was ordained priest and consecrated a bishop and made the Bishop of Canterbury. And when he became the Bishop of Canterbury, he had been a good chancellor under the king, and when he became the Bishop of Canterbury, the King Henry II was attacking the rights of the church, and St. Thomas Becket immediately chastised the king and immediately said that he would stand up for the rights of the church. And he stood up for the rights of the church against the abuses of the king. And then the king was angry with St. Thomas, expecting him to be not attacking the king so much, but he attacked the king very boldly because the king was abusing the church and abusing the rights of the church. And so that he stood up for defending his sheep and defending the church against the king. Then King Henry II was angry and had him exiled. And when he was in exile, he still was able to rule Canterbury from exile. And the people loved St. Thomas because of his holiness, and because of he had given away all to become the head of the sheep of Canterbury. Then in France, where he was in hiding, or he was in the monastery, the king threatened the monastery that was taking care of St. Thomas, and he left the monastery, visited the Pope, and asked to go back to England, but he was left in exile. But then through the communications of the Pope to the King Henry, the Pope commanded that Henry allow Thomas to return back to Canterbury and be the Bishop of Canterbury again. While he was in exile, King Henry II took all the family of St. Thomas. And every relative, his brothers and his sisters and all their families, and any relative of all ages. He took all the relatives and he threw them out of England. And he made them go to France. And he made all of them vow that they would go to Thomas and say, "Thomas, it is because of you that we are thrown out of our homes. It is because of you that we have no home. Can you please to save your family, except to no longer attack the king and attack his policies?" And St. Thomas rather defended his sheep than his family. And he said that if we must all suffer to defend the sheep, then we must all suffer. But I will do my duty as a shepherd, regardless of how much of my family is attacked. He was then called back from exile, and he went back to England. When he arrived back in England, he continued to do his work as bishop. And then the King Henry II, we know recorded in history, he said, "There can be no peace in my kingdom. Will there be any peace? Will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest?" And then some of his advisors heard the king say, "Will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest?" And so they went and had a secret meeting, and they decided to kill Thomas. They went on December 29th, today. They went to the Canterbury Cathedral, and when the brothers and monks saw the men coming, they knew they were going to kill Thomas, and they went to lock the doors of the church. And St. Thomas said, "It is the time of prayer. It is the house of God. And the house of God is protected by the angels, and we do not bolt the doors at the time of prayer." And he commanded the doors to be opened. Then he stood in front of the men that were going to kill him, and they came up to him, and he says, You shall not harm any of my sheep. And then he knelt down in front of his slayers, and he bowed his head in front of them. And then they cut off his head, and then they killed him. And they took his brains, and they smashed them all over the floors of the cathedral. They continued to cut his body and to damage his body even after he was dead. They spread his blood throughout the floor of the Canterbury Cathedral. Then the word came to Pope Alexander, who was the same pope that sent him back. And many miracles started to happen immediately from the blood in the body of St. Thomas. And Pope Alexander then immediately canonized Thomas as a saint. And having canonized Thomas as a saint, it required the king to honor the saint. And so King Henry II, who was there for the death of Thomas, he had to honor him as a saint. And through the death of Thomas and through his martyrdom, Canterbury was saved and the evil policies of the king were brought to an end. And so we read on this Mass, as we said, these Masses, today is a commemoration feast, so it's not as important as the 26th, 27th, and 28th. But these feasts, immediately after Christmas, they are part of the cycle of the church. They are part of the mystery of Christmas. That Christ, on the 26th and the 25th, he is born in the flesh. On the 26th, St. Stephen takes leave of his flesh and goes to heaven. On the 27th, we have the feast of St. John, who is the Sacred Heart. That Christ came to change hearts and to make the beloved, make love of Christ in the hearts, the beloved apostle. On the 28th, the death of the holy innocents. That whenever one abandons God, there is going to be the death of the holy innocents, and also that Christ is going to bring back innocence. But when Christ comes, he is going to take guilty man, born with original sin, and he is going to bring back innocence. And then on this feast, the 29th, St. Thomas, the Good Shepherd. We read in the Gospel, I am the Good Shepherd. And the Good Shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. St. Gregory the Great, in his sermon today, he says that Thomas was the Good Shepherd. Because when we consider the shepherd and the hireling works for money. And the hireling works for himself. And we read in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, that the shepherds, I am angry with the shepherds, and I will visit the shepherds with judgment, says the Lord. Because the shepherds have fed themselves, and they have not fed the flock. And the shepherds have shorn the hair of the sheep. They have cut the hair of the sheep in the wintertime. So the sheep are cold, but the shepherds are warm. And they have scattered the flock, and they have not taken care of the flock. Let it be known that I will visit the shepherds. And also, towards the middle of the Ezekiel chapter 34, after he punishes the shepherds, I will send my own shepherd. There will come a new shepherd. This shepherd shall gather together all the sheep that are all around the world that have been scattered by the evil shepherds. And he shall gather them back, and he shall protect them. And this good shepherd is Jesus.